Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for our weekly track roundup, where I go into what I felt were the best and the worst tracks of the week. It's a very special week, I would say, but I'm not going to get too deeply into that, not until we get out of the way our Amazon Associates link. It's down there in the description. Hit that link if you live in the US and you click on that baby, you're going to be brought to Amazon, and anything you buy on the site after that, we get kickback from it. You got to use it each time you go on Amazon, but once you've clicked in, you're in that session, we get kickback from what you're buying. It helps out the segment. We see that you guys are using it. Greatly appreciate that you're using it. Use it to buy some music you really wanted or some stuff you were going to buy anyway. Just use it. We also have a similar thing going on with the good people over at Turntable Lab, a bit of an associates program kickback for purchases, where we have a page up there where it's vinyl recommendations of cool pressings of records that I've reviewed, or some good starter turntables over there as well for people looking to get into the whole turntable thing, into the whole record collecting thing. Down there they have some good starter tables that you should check out too. And I also have to shout out again our sponsor in this video. They were the sponsor in the last video, our last best and worst tracks video, the good people over at feedbands.com, the music club, the vinyl club that uses the power of crowdsourcing to release records and put out records and send them straight to you. And last week I was talking about how unique the service is, that artists are uploading their music up there, they're putting their music up there, and people who are members of the club are voting on what records are to be printed and sort of sent out to them. What music is great enough to have sort of a physical copy of. Very unique, the fact that they're sort of approaching things in that way. Not only is that link down there in the description, but check out this URL over here. Follow this URL, and feedbands.com wants to give you a free trial of their service. They're going to send records to you, and all you need to do is pay for shipping. All you got to do is pay some shipping, and you get that free trial going, and they're going to send you some of the great music that their little club has to offer. Again, check them out. Listen to some of the music on the platform. See what they have to offer, because I will say again, out of all these Vinyl of the Month clubs that I've worked with, and I've worked with quite a few. I've done sponsorships with quite a few of them. And I've seen many others. This is one of the more unique ones. These guys are truly doing something really interesting. All right, as I was saying, this is kind of a special week. It's kind of a unique week. There wasn't a whole lot in terms of tracks that I really, truly loved and was excited about. We might do best tracks first, just to get it out of the way, because there are just a couple of tracks that I was kind of surprised by, did enjoy, it's tracks, some of them that I didn't even anticipate that I would enjoy. First, I want to give a shout out to the new Bones mixtape, which is titled Unrendered, I believe, which is out on SoundCloud right now. Give that a shot. Just kind of shout that out. And moving on from there, one of my favorite tracks that I heard this week is from the Tunnelvisions, the track Tanami. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's a really cool creative piece of tech house. It's kind of experimental, very groovy, and some very creative and strange vocal samples throughout this track that I thought were pretty beautiful too. It's sort of a it hit this really interesting balance between being cold and sort of calculated and very repetitive and methodical, but also soulful and colorful and bright. So I liked that track quite a bit. Next, moving on from there, the new White Suns track, Psychic Drift. White Suns, who I have reviewed on multiple occasions so far. These guys are an interesting noise and experimental music outfit that have a new record coming out via the Flenser, and I believe this is their second album for the label, and I think I loved their last one. I really loved their previous record before that, but this new one over here, this track that they've come out with, it does take a while to get going. It is a slow burner. It is a very heavy and ominous drone, but once the track really starts revving up and getting really noisy and intense, and you get those kind of screamed, shouted vocal passages, it does get insane and off the wall. So I'm really digging that track. Moving on from there, Big Boy with Kill Jill featuring Killer Mike, banger of a track. Awesome performances on this track. Big Boy, he always comes out with a great track. He always comes out with a great couple of singles. This one with Killer Mike is truly gritty and hard-hitting and badass. But the track that he came out with featuring Adam Levine, what was it? Mike. Oh, I don't even want to think of it right now. Honestly, this track, what the Mike Jack. God, this track, Mike Jack. That was like an awful piece of dance pop rap. So Big Boy, he can never really settle on a single sound. You know, he does have the ability to kind of pull off those hard-hitting tracks, but in his heart, he is very much a pop rapper to a big degree. So, I mean, I always sort of go into a Big Boy project expecting that sort of variety and inconsistency in a way. You know, there are just some directions and that he goes in, some sounds he pursues that I do not like at all. And these two tracks exemplify that perfectly. This is like, wow, here's the Big Boy I love, and here's the Big Boy I don't like at all. All together on two simultaneously released tracks. So just letting you guys know, if I end up feeling that way about his forthcoming record, that's probably why. But I did love that Killer Mike track. That Killer Mike track was great. And that's pretty much it for tracks that I was truly, truly loving this week. There were a lot of tracks that I was sort of on the fence with. The new Rich Chigga song, Back at It. Definitely one of his more introspective and personal tracks from a lyrical standpoint, but not really all that entertaining as far as like a chorus. The beat wasn't banging all that hard. It wasn't really that... it wasn't a song I really got whipped up in, you know, though if you're kind of looking for a more introspective angle from Rich Chigga, because he hasn't really kind of given that on too many tracks thus far, this could be a pretty interesting listen for the hardcore fans who kind of want to get a little bit deeper into what he's about and what he's trying to do with his music. So that track is decent. The new XXXTentacion tracks that popped up on World Star Hip Hop this week, there were a couple of them, were all kind of okay. There was one track where he was rapping over like a boom bap beat and he was really trying to put together some bars, and it was like, yeah, that's all right. You know, it's not amazing. The track that really sort of stuck out to me as my favorite, I guess, was the track he put out with Ski Mask, the Slump God, What in XXXTarnation, which is just kind of another heavy, distorted, aggressive track in his usual style, but with a really memey title. So, you know, I don't really know if there's anything else to say about it beyond that. I don't know. It was listenable. It was decent. You know, it was fun. Moving on from there, the new Father John Misty cover of Who Loves the Sun, Velvet Underground cover, a track that is in a new soundtrack that you need to go to, I think, 259 in the link down there in the description box to start hearing that. It's a decent cover. It's a sweet cover. You know, certainly plays into the emotional mood of a lot of the songs that he put out lately off of his latest record, Pure Comedy. And also Paramore, Hard Times, like... This is part of the week that this week was. This is part of the reason this week was crazy. Like everything's been flipped on its fucking head. Hopsin came out with a new track called "Bust That," which is like a weird kind of little tour song, which is actually pretty listenable. And Paramore came out with a track that was like surprisingly listenable. This track, "Hard Times," is not the usual pop punk pap that the band comes through with. It may seem a little dated in that it sounds and the music video even looks like it could be for some kind of disco tinged indie pop from the 2000s or something, but I do think this is one of their better songs. Like, it certainly sounds better than their pop punk stuff. So I'm all for this direction personally. I find it kind of refreshing. So moving on from there, I have so many other tracks that I was, thought were worth shouting out, but I still wasn't really crazy about. You know, the new IDYLLS track, that Australian band IDYLLS, which are typically really brutal, really noisy. They've come through with this new track titled "The Maslow Dogs." I believe that's how you pronounce that. It's not quite as heavy or as monstrous as as a lot of what I've heard so far, this Maslows Dogs track, but it is certainly jammy and does have, I think, a greater post-hardcore influence to it. The issue with the track, though, is that I think at one point the jam kind of loses a little bit of steam and stops being all that exciting. Like the intensity of the playing sort of falls off, sort of trails off, and the track gets a little meh. Moving on from there, Youth Code Lost at Sea. Chelsea Wolfe does a remix of this song, which is actually like pretty raw and awesome. D.R.A.M. has a new track featuring A$AP Rocky and Juicy J titled Gilligan, which is pretty low-key track, you know, not really as colorful or as eccentric or as fun as some of my favorite tracks that D.R.A.M. has put out. And not that he can't put out a nasty, gritty trap, sort of very nocturnal, very murky sort of song, but it's not really like anything all that exciting to me outside of the guest features on this song. You know, the hook is kind of a dud in my opinion, and the beat is just kind of like a bit of a generic trap thing. There's not really anything all that sort of special about the instrumental, and D.R.A.M. isn't really sort of letting loose on his bright sort of crazy vocal harmonies or anything like that. He's trying to do sort of a more straightforward rap performance on this track. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not crazy about it. It's decent. Moving on from there, Perfume Genius had a track out called Go Ahead this week that is definitely the oddest and most difficult to digest track that I've heard Mike come out with in a long time. Like the beats are so sporadic and the track is so, I don't know, tangled in these odd rhythms and just like a really weird groove, or just the way the song is paced is just so strange. I don't really know if I could say much more about it than that. It's just really, really obtuse. And it has me not worried, but sort of a little on the fence, but intrigued as to like, wow, well, like what does this potentially mean for the rest of the record? Like, can the rest of the record be this sort of experimental? And if it is, will it all just kind of like make a bit more sense, and will everything kind of fall into place once I hear the entire album? So, you know, while it's not like this instant hit to me, it does kind of have me, you know, sort of a little puzzled and interested to see where things are going. The new Bleachers track, I Hate That You Know Me, it was okay. Zaytoven, East Atlanta Day, featuring Gucci Mane and 21 Savage, it was all right. And, you know, that was it for the tracks that I was kind of thought were decent, thought were worth mentioning, but, you know, I wasn't crazy about. Now, the worst tracks of the week. God, there are so many. The Big Boy track that I just mentioned with Adam Levine. God, is that track sickeningly sweet, and I just don't want to have anything to do with it ever again. I'm not looking forward to whatever album it's going to land on, and I got to listen to it more. Moving on from there, Lana Del Rey has a new song out titled Lust for Life with The Weeknd, and a lot like the last track she just came out with, the production is absolutely disappointing on this track. It's almost like she's completely abandoned the sort of vintage vocal pop aesthetic that her music usually puts forward, which I felt like she embraced that in a bigger way than ever, than she ever has before on her last record, and I was kind of excited to see if she would continue to push that forward. But now with the glitzy, sort of flat, mostly synthetic instrumentals that she's working with, especially on this song, I don't know. It's kind of like I'm listening to some adult contemporary pop or something. You know, it doesn't sound young. It doesn't sound youthful. It doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound colorful. It doesn't sound vibrant. It's just very sanitary. It's just very static. It's just very flaccid. It's very flat. And I mean, I know I've said before that even before this was publicly acknowledged by either of them, that Lana Del Rey is the girl that Weeknd is singing about in his songs, and Weeknd is the guy that Lana Del Rey is singing about in her songs, and they need to work together more, because the few occasions that I have heard them work together, it always sounds good. On this track, not so much chemistry on this song, in my opinion. It's kind of a drab mess. I mean, as they're kind of trading lines on this track, it just sounds so boring. And maybe it could have a lot to do with the instrumental. It just doesn't seem there's much fire or urgency to this track. Both of them are kind of phoning it in. Both of them are just kind of painting by numbers on this song, in my opinion. Moving on from there, we have Surgical Meth Machine, I'm Invisible, the Ministry side project. And this apparently is the DJ Swamp remix, and this was a nice little track that came out for 420. So if you're looking to, I don't know, give yourself a little bit of, a 420 regret, I guess, listen to this track, because God, it is bad. God, this next track is hard. Woods have a new song out titled Hit That Drum. And Woods are a band that I've covered numerous times on this channel. And there have been a couple of tracks from this forthcoming album, Love Is Love, that I've really liked. A couple of tracks that I was really, or at least one track that I was majorly disappointed by. This track is another one of those. The track is, unlike any other song I've heard the band put together, it's mostly based on this sort of tense, fluttering drone, like this constant shuffling of instrumentation to sort of build this wall of sound. And God, is it awkward, and the sound that it creates is neither exciting nor is it relaxing or pleasurable. It's just so sour and ugly and horrid that I just don't know what else to I feel like, even though the words that I've said there are very negative, I feel like I've failed to adequately describe what makes this song fall so flat on its face, in my opinion. I'm very worried about this forthcoming Woods album. I'm afraid that there's going to be just very little consistency to it, because that's sort of what the singles so far have been kind of, communicating to me. And this track is, man, I'm not looking forward to have to listen to this track a bunch more times when their next record comes out, because this was like an instrumental mess and just didn't really make much sense to me from an instrumental standpoint, from a performance standpoint, from a production standpoint, from a songwriting standpoint. It was just one of the weirdest and most unpleasurable experiences I've had listening to a Woods song. But even more unpleasurable, I would say, is the new Lady Gaga track, The Cure. God, is this a generic piece of pop trash? Which is really unfortunate, because everything from her last record, even the worst tracks, like, had, I would say, more personality to them, more rawness to them, definitely more of a singer-songwriter aesthetic to them than anything she's ever put out before. Definitely not as glitzy or over the top, and I wouldn't even call The Cure that. It just kind of seems like a really generic dime a dozen sort of pop beat. Lady Gaga's vocal performance didn't really seem to dig in that much emotionally for me either. It just seemed like Lady Gaga kind of reminding people a little bit like, hey, I still make, plain old pop music. It's not all about this whole rock, country, folky, soul music thing that I just did on my last record, which unfortunately, from what I've seen, has not sold as well as some of her previous records. Maybe she's kind of feeling the pinch there a little bit and is thinking, hey, maybe I should go back into a direction that my fans sort of expect from me or something, which, again, is unfortunate. I liked her last record. I liked that she sort of took a risk there and tried something different. For the most part, I think it did pan out, but I guess she's clearly feeling the need to go back into her typical sort of dance pop direction, and and if she's going to do that, certainly I welcome that, but it's going to need to be something a little bit more unique and memorable than what she's presented here on The Cure, because this seems like a track that Poker Face era Gaga could have written with two hands behind her back, because this was just, not really anything special in terms of the song, the sound, the lyrics. It was just so run of the mill for her. So another huge disappointment, and another amazing couple of disappointments. The new Young Thug song, All the Time. God, can I get the lyrics for the hook on this track up? The guy is literally rapping about tampons. He's literally rapping about tampons. The hook makes no fucking sense. It's such a bad track. Not only that, but vocally, this is one of the worst songs that Thugger has ever put together. Like, he sounds like a bad pop can. He sounds like he's trying to do a little bit of a dance hall thing, but he doesn't have the ability to fully commit to that sound or vocal style. So sometimes he's dipping into it. Sometimes he's dipping out of it. And then, again, you get this god-awful hook where he's just rapping or singing or whatever about fucking tampons and bleeding on your girl. Which is actually, like, kind of disgusting. Like, kind of reaches a level of disgust that that hit me when I heard that line off of Rick Ross's last record where he was rapping about like that girl eating his ass out or whatever. That's disgusting. This is also disgusting. Thinking of some kind of Young Thug tampon with menstrual blood bleeding on people. That's like really weird and gross to me. And not even because I think menstrual blood is inherently gross or anything like that. It's the fact that Young Thug has been melded with tampons. So he's a man pawn. You know, he's half human, half tampon, and there's blood all in him, and he's bleeding on people. That's fucking gross. But moving on from there. The last track I want to mention, and God, this will end the segment, thankfully, is the new Danzig track, Devil on Highway 9. Danzig... I'm not saying it's time for Danzig to stop making music. I think it's time for Danzig to start making different music, you know, because the thing is what he's trying to do on this track, what he's been trying to do for his past couple of records, it's just not working out anymore. Not only do the instrumentals not sound that great, but I don't think Danzig really has the vocal presence to kind of deliver over this kind of music anymore, because on this track, he sounds haggard. I don't know if he could have done another take and gotten a better vocal performance, or, you know, sipped a little tea, gotten a better night's sleep. I don't know what the solution is. All I know is that he sounds awful on this track. Like, this is nothing like debut album Danzig. This is nothing like, you know, second or even third album Danzig. This is just a mess. And I don't know what else to say about it other than that. And those are the worst tracks of the week. God, there were so many of them. And hopefully next week is not nearly as emotionally trying, because I caught up on a lot of these songs recently because I was kind of, you know, in the midst of all of the D.R.A.M drama from the D.R.A.M review that just came out. And, you know, I was kind of locked into that and sort of looking at my other reviews and everything like that. And it wasn't until like a day or two ago that I was like, okay, wait, actually, like, let's try to see what all the songs were that came out over the week. And I was like, man, so many terrible songs, God. So, you know, thankfully, exercise that demon. It's out of the way. And now that that's sort of through, let me say again, Amazon Associates link down there in the description box. If you live in the U.S., hit that up. Grab some shit on Amazon you were going to buy anyway. Turntable Lab as well is down there for the vinyl collectors. And the good people over at feedbands.com, remember, hit that URL, feedbands.com/needledrop. Get that free trial. All you got to do is pay a little shipping. They're sending you some music. And also check out the website too, because they have a lot of good stuff on there, and you could sort of play part in the community and sort of decide what records are getting printed and sent out to people. And that's it, guys. I will see you guys in the next video. Appreciate you watching. Hopefully you got a couple of good recommendations out of this thing, you know, especially out of the meh section where, you know, maybe you guys are crazy about that stuff, crazier about it than I was. But, you know, that's going to be it. So, forever.